Hello and welcome to the history of lavender and lavender ethnobotany. In this episode we'll go over the ethnobotany and hybrid history / breeding history of lavender. Let's get started. The earliest known doctors who used lavender were the classical Greeks, such as Dioscorides. He found a sample of a lavender species called Lavender stoicheus on the island of Stochadus, now known as the island of Hyrus. This was historically used for communal baths in ancient Roman times. Dioscorides also uses herb for energy purposes, similar to caffeine, and as a laxative, as well as a treatment for chest complaints in a tea form. Lavender was also used by Galen to treat poison and bites, and Emperor Nero used it as an anti-poison pill and as a way of treating his urine disorders. Lavender mixed with wine was used to treat snake bites and stings, as well as treating stomach aches and various other disorders. Another species of lavender, now known as Lavender vera, was used extensively for diluting to make expensive perfumes. Pliny also advised the use of lavender as a way of promoting menstruation. A herbalist in Germany that lived between 1098 and 1179 AD, named Abbess Hildegard, used lavender as one of the ingredients to treat palsy. This medicine was a mixture of galangal, nutmeg, lavender, and black cumin, in combination with another mixture of female fern and saxifrage. She also recommended its use as a way of driving out demons, as well as a delousing tool. This advice was taken until the 1870s, because up until then, lavender was used for delousing within Europe. During the Middle Ages, it was used mostly as a stewing herb. First known Middle Ages physician to use lavender was William Turner, who recommended it be used as a shampoo. Later on, John Gerard, who recommended it as an antipsychotic. He also recommended the use of Lavandula sriraches as a means of treating poison. Lavender was also mentioned by Shakespeare in some of his plays. John Parkinson, the physician to King James I, recommended the seeds as a deworming medicine, and the rest to be used as painkillers. Nicholas Culpeper recommended that it be used to treat fainting, palsies, cramp, and general maladies, as well as a way of treating colic, toothache, and voice loss. Now on to the late 1600s up until the modern age. Thomas Palmer, who lived in 1696, lived in the United States when there were just simple colonies, and he suggested the use of lavender to treat heart conditions. Next we will cover William Salmon, who lived between 1644 and 1713. Like many of the ancient herbalists of old, he wrote about lavender's ability to treat various types of poison and rabies. He also recommended it as a laxative, as a detergent, as a treatment for insanity, and as a way of treating paralysis. Now on to Miss Grieve, who lived until 1937. She described the different uses of different species of lavender. English lavender was used alongside several other species to create different lavender oils for perfume purposes. She later described spike lavender as being a poor quality lavender for making oil, and described its constant crossbreeding with a good quality lavender species for essential oil called Lavandula fragrans, and the hybrids being called bastard lavender, which is also impure for making essential oil. She recommends that Lavandula vera, Lavandula officinalis, Lavandula delphinus, and Lavandula fragrans should be used for perfume oil, while Lavandula stoicheus should be used primarily for medicine purposes as a means of treating headaches when applied externally to the head, and mixed with hot water to treat joint pains. And distilled water with lavender in it should be used to treat hoarseness or loss of voice. During the war, lavender oil was used extensively for the purposes of treating wounds, and later on sores and ulcers, as well as burns. It was also used in veterinary practices to treat lice and parasites, and during that time it was increasingly used to embalm corpses. The earliest known uses of lavender in prehistory seems to be for sanitation purposes for washing or bathing, and was also used for occult practices. Now on to its history as a perfume. The earliest known uses as a perfume occurs prior to the 16th century in Europe, but there's evidence that it may have been used by the Chinese and Arabic nations between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago. In the Middle Ages, however, perfumes in general were condemned by the Catholic Church. It was tolerated in men, but women were chased out of church by such individuals within that church. In the 16th century, it came back with a vengeance, and various perfumes made from lavender, amongst other herbs and spices, and even flowers and animals, were used to make perfumes. This became more complex in Victorian England, and as of today is mainly used for essential oil manufacturing, cosmetics, perfumes, soaps, and other things like that. And to this day, spiked lavender is used extensively in veterinary shampoos as an insect repellent for fleas. And it's also used for aromatherapy. Whether or not you believe it is up to you. Now on to the hybrid history. For the majority of breeding history, lavender was split into 3 groups. Stochaius, which include 3 species, Lavandula stochaius, Lavandula pedunculata, and Lavandula dilata. The second group is called Lavandula, which include Lavandula spica and Lavandula latiflora. Due to poor naming schemes, Lavandula vera was also renamed Lavandula officinalis, adding to the confusion. Now on to the descriptions of the species. The Stochaius group has a very bulrush-like flower, spikes. Lavandula stochaius has flowers within plump bracts. L. verdis looks like a hybrid between L. stochaius and L. pedunculata, the latter of which has larger in size but shorter bracts than Lavandula stochaius. In the spicata group, there's a subgroup of Lavandula officinalis called Lavandula angustifolia that is used to produce lavender oil. The first hybrid on our list will also be known as lavandin. It's a hybrid between Lavandula borteris and Lavandula angustifolia, and spike lavender. It produces a lot more oil, but it's not always sweet-smelling. There is Lavandula lactiflora. It flowers later than regular lavender, but is similar in appearance to true lavender, and is used for perfume as well. There's Lavandula lanfenta. It has briar flowers and a menthol scent. Now onto the history of different cultivars. Dr. De Wolf in 1955, in his work, showed that there was many different hybrids between spiked lavender and Lavandula latiflora, and one of the traits was dwarfing in size, but also discussed that these hybrids were lesser in quality compared to Lavandula angustifolia, and recommended it only be used for soaps. The initial hybridizations were likely made through crossbreeding between Lavandula angustifolia and spike lavender, with the fancy name varieties named lavandin by Dr. De Wolf. In 1985, Dr. Tucker and Dr. Henson discovered that all cultivars of Lavandula examined were either pureblood Lavandula angustifolia or hybrids called Lavandula ex intermedia, with no spike lavender pureblood cultivars. In 1937, the pink variety of lavender was introduced. The first dark violet lavender cultivars were introduced before 1911 and were called multiple names such as dwarf, dwarf blue, new dwarf blue, baby blue, hardy dwarf, and nana, with a bunch of new strains coming up afterwards. The first known lavender blue flower cultivars were introduced in 1914 and include Bowles variety, Munstead, and Miss Dunningham, although compacta also was lavender blue, and it was introduced before 1901. Now on to the lavandin cultivars. The lavandin cultivars, known for white flowers, was introduced at an unknown time and was called Alba. This was a substrain of Emmerich Lossier, which was introduced in 1923. Prior to that, in 1902, Grappen Hall was introduced. Well, that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to me on BitChute for a greater variety of content 4 videos a week. And thank you to all my subscribers on both platforms. I appreciate it.